Hello and welcome to another edition of Nation Building. On our program, we examine the political, social, and moral issues in the leadership of the Bahamas. Today's interview will take a different twist. As you know, in this period, with rare exception, we are looking at talking to regular, ordinary Bahamians. And by that I mean people who are not involved in the politics of our country and who bring a different perspective to national happenings. And so today we are, as we will continue to do over the next few weeks, having a discussion with someone who brings a very different but nonetheless a dynamic perspective to our national life. And so when we come back from this break, I'll introduce him to you right here on Nation Building.
Being awarded a free iPhone in the Making A's Pace campaign last year was one of the most exciting things that ever happened to me. I used my phone to play games, chat with friends over the summer break, and watch YouTube videos. Then I got an idea to start my own balloon business. Being able to use my own phone to start up my balloon business was so important to me. I used my phone to research prices and learn how to do balloon designs that I currently offer to my customers today. The internet speed was so good. Oh my gosh, there was no buffering and the videos were very clear. I am so grateful to Alive for my new phone. Thanks Alive. My name is Cara Knowles, owner of the Balloon Princess, and I believe in best.
It's the market for the entire family. Sawyer's Fresh Market. Bahamian owned and operated, Sawyer's is known for the lowest prices on meats, produce, fresh fruits, and vegetables. Check them out on Facebook and the Freeport News to find out all of their weekly specials and their monthly blowout sales. Sawyer's Fresh Market. Your grocery bill just got lower.
Hi, good morning. Good morning. Hi, would you like to try our chunk noodles?
I only come in here for 2 items.
Okay, but it'll only take 1 second and it's so delicious. Just 1 second.
Yeah, everything tastes delicious. Wow, it's really good. Where do I find it in the store?
Right this way, let me show you. Okay.
Thank you.
I'm glad to see you.
Do the shuffle.
It's been a while, do the shuffle.
I can't do shuffle, man.
You know what? You need this.
What's that?
Junkanoo Juice Medley.
That's it. Give me some more.
Come on,
Jamaica Bahama Imports. Always got it.
Come on down and get your Junkanoo juice today.
Who said you can't get great quality products at an affordable price? If you want the best quality food products at the most affordable prices, you must pick up the Jamaica Bahama brand of fine quality products at your favorite food store. Products like Jamaica Bahama Coconut Water, the most healthy and refreshing drink on the market. Jamaica Bahama Fruit Punch, the only fruit punch in the Bahamas made from real fruit. Jamaica Bahama coconut milk, green pigeon peas with coconut milk, condensed milk, kidney beans with coconut milk, corned beef, green pigeon peas, mackerel, and corn. Jamaica Bahama's fine line of products is available at all your favorite food stores and convenience stores nationwide. Telephone 351-8282 in Freeport and 341-4091 in Nassau.
I don't wanna win. No, I don't wanna win.
Hello and welcome back to Nation Building. I'm your host, Winston Pinnock. On today's program, we're having a discussion with, we're going to talk a lot about politics, but we're going to talk about politics from a different perspective. We're talking politics from the barbershop today. And of course, we'll do talk about other national happenings and things that are going on in the country that we think you, the viewers, want to know. And so I take great pleasure in presenting to the country Mr. I almost call you Doctor, Mr. AntoineMinnis. Mr. Minnis, welcome to Nation Building.
Pleasure being here, sir.
Wonderful. And of course, Mr. Minnis is the proprietor of Executive Grooming. And Executive Grooming is it's more than a barber shop. It is a place where executives gather to, one, have a haircut, and two, have discussion. He has a unique a set of people that come to his facility by appointments. And so I think you meet, if I am wrong, correct me, but I think you've cut everybody from the Prime Minister down.
I have. I've had quite a diverse clientele. I have quite a diverse clientele, but I'm very proud of. I've learned so much from them, and I'm grateful that God has given me that opportunity to be in this field, because many people think that the field is just about getting a haircut, or it's about how it's lined up, but they don't understand that there is a serious level of psychology to barbering, that you are actually responsible for a person's self-esteem. The history of barbering is centered from Egypt, because the first recorded barber in history was a man by the name of Mermaat, who was responsible for shaving the bodies of the priests so that they can go to Pharaoh. Now, he was the only commoner that was able to touch what was considered deity back in the day. In fact, his tools and implements are still in a museum in Egypt. So with that, we see where it moved from there, because at that time, Egypt was also the center of education. So they had a man by the name of Ticinius Maena who traveled from Rome to Egypt to learn nautical navigation. But when he got there, he found the art of grooming, what they call the tonsorial art, to be very intriguing to him. So he then learned the process and took it back to Rome. And that is how we have the Romans themselves becoming so enamored or so caught up with the process of manicures, pedicures, massages, and grooming themselves. In fact, it was considered to be a product only of the elite. They had their own personal person that they call their personal tonsure. So they then caused it to spread throughout Europe. We found people like Alexander the Great, because of his military presence, the Emperor Hadrian, who kept a beard, but he made the beard fashionable, not because he liked it, but because he had a scar from war, and that he was ashamed of the scar, so he used the beard to hide the scar. But Alexander the Great found that even though the beard was fashionable, it was not functional in war, because the enemy would grab a hold of the beard, pull the person's hair down, and sever it. So he made it mandatory that nobody in his army were to have a beard. And I think that's where we get now. Most military, they shave their head, their face, and everything like that to ensure that there is nothing for the enemy to hold on to.
History.
History. So now we also have barbering coming into the field of medicine through Pope Gregory. Pope Gregory was a pope who was responsible for the Catholic Church at that time, and we know that the Catholic priest in that era was responsible for being the medicine man or being the doctor of that era. But they had a process called bloodletting that Pope Gregory felt that they should not, the church itself should not be responsible for. They should not allow the lifeblood of humanity to leave the body, even though it was done for medicinal purposes. So because of the sharpness of the tools and implements, and because of the sanitary practices of the barber of that time, they brought the barber along with them. Then the barber became responsible for tooth pulling. They became responsible for bloodletting. They became responsible for the administering of herbal remedies. They became responsible for amputations. So the barber then became the doctor. Now, from that, we see where modern day surgery came into that, because it was a French tonsorial artist who was the barber for the king at that time. His name was Ambroise Paré. He was responsible for creating what they call the sling for the arm. So he was they consider him the father of modern day surgery. And he was responsible for building prosthetics for people who've lost arms so that they can, still be functional. And from there, King Henry, I think it was King Henry XIV, he was responsible for saying that, you know what, the school of surgery and the school of barbering, he wanted to separate those schools, because then a barber could have been a surgeon, but a surgeon could not have been a barber, and they were trying to bring some type of dignity to the art of surgery. So he separated the two industries, and that is how we have surgery, a medicine, and we have barbering, and they were able to separate
The
it.
average Bahamian out there watching must be saying, obviously, very few people have the kind of history that you are sharing about your craft. It's knowledge. It's important to understand things. That's why you don't abuse them when you understand them. But the history is very deep, and obviously you study your craft. Let's talk a little about, now that we've covered the depth of from where barbering originated, and the many phases and things that barbers did in over time. Let's talk a little about you, Mr. Minnis. You have been in barbering for how long?
29 years.
29 years.
29.
What made you choose? You are a successful barber and businessman, and as you talk to young Bahamians out there, and not so young, who are curious about someone like yourself going into the field that you did, you don't present yourself as a barber who just grew up, learned the craft, and just went into barbering and just does it to make a couple of dollars. You built a business. You have expanded in more than one location. So talk to us about what made you choose the craft or the field of barbering.
Well, as a younger man, you know, my neighbor, he was cutting his cousin's hair, and the machine intrigued me, and how steady his hands were when he was actually doing it, and I wanted to try it.
How old were you then?
I was about 9 years of age, and I wanted to try it. So he gave me the opportunity to try it. And in doing it, it was like the level of concentration that it took just to try to hold your hand steady and to get it symmetrical and all that stuff like that. I mean, it was phenomenal. Needless to say, I failed badly at that time. But it intrigued me so much that I just felt like this was such a skill to do it, to get it all even, to get it all neat, to get it all smooth, and to make the person that I was doing it feel pleased with the job. And from then, I became really intrigued with the profession. And at that time, my sister-in-law, her name is Deborah Longley, she just retired from teaching in the government system, from C.C. Sweeting School, excellent woman, beautiful person. She was then beginning her tenure as a teacher, and she taught cosmetology. And she had the tools, the implements, the machines and stuff like that. So I would always petition her for a machine if she could, or for a guard or something that I could use to try and master the craft, or just to try to get it right, And she was very, very accommodating. She had no problems in giving me what I needed. And it just took off from there. I started with them. I moved around, got my cousins. It was always something, because there's always a consistent change in the industry. There was always something that you had to learn. There's always something new. And even today, after all this time, there's still things that I find that I'm learning, and still new techniques and products that are coming out that can help you to perfect the craft, which I feel you will never perfect. It becomes like a practice, So that is where my start came from. That's my earliest intrigue. My nephew, Terrell, was my guinea pig back then, and he was always willing, and so I always made it a point that whenever he stepped out, he always looked his best.
So you practiced on Terrell.
Yeah.
So moving from, did you start out working professionally with a barber at a barber shop, and if so, where?
Well, when I started out with a man by the name of Jerome Miller, who to me was a consummate professional in the industry. He is probably one of the more versed people outside of Clifford Humes, because to me, those two gentlemen, they epitomize excellence in the field of barbering. It's sad that people have not used their skills to glean on. It's sad that the BTVI have not pulled these people in to say, hey, you know, teach, move forward, teach, because it's not just about teaching how to cut here, it's teaching how to engage people, customer service on a different level, you know. So I've had the opportunity to sit at the feet of both of these great gentlemen and learn techniques that you won't find normally in
But having
school.
talked so much about what you learned from those gentlemen, I take it that they are now in their twilight years. Is it they're older, as in
They're older.
retired or not quite?
They're not retired.
Not
They're
quite,
older, but
okay.
they're still very functional.
So what are you doing to transfer that knowledge and experience to another generation?
I've taught at BTVI for about 2 years, and the foundation for opening the second location was from the students themselves that I taught. They wanted to further their education through work experience, so we just created the platform for them to expand on their knowledge base. Since then, I can say that I've had quite a number of young barbers come through as apprentices, and I've worked with them. I've always said, if you give me the attitude, then we can train the skill. So that's the difficulty that I face right now in the industry, is just getting the attitude towards what they're doing, that they approach it from a very humble perspective, because it can be very rewarding as time goes on.
Are you saying that it is difficult to find in your industry young Bahamians who are trainable, young men who are trainable?
You find young men who are trainable from a skill perspective. There's no lack of that, of the skill capabilities. But to have the attitude to deal with and relate to people, to deal with the psychology of barbering, that is where we're having our challenges in this industry.
Are you hopeful?
Very much so.
What makes you hopeful in light of all the challenges?
What
that
makes me
you've highlighted?
hopeful? What makes me hopeful in light of the challenges that I face is that within the boundaries of 20, you can find one. And for that one, to me, that's an accomplishment. That's a victory, you know. And I've had the opportunity to find about 7 or 8 that have gone on to very rewarding careers thus far. I've also had the opportunity to work with barbers who are older, who have decided that, you know what, based on what they've gleaned from my establishments, they have now opened barbershops themselves, which I promote. I have no problem with that.
Wonderful. We're gonna pick up from there and then hurry along to the main focus of our discussion today. You're watching Nation Building. I'm your host, Winston Pinnock. Right back after these messages.
Hello, I'm Wendell Jones, and every time I sit down and I watch JCN television, I drink the Jamaica Bahama fruit juice. It's so pleasing to the palate.
I've been cooking Bahamian dishes for generations. I now use Jamaica Bahamas product. The rice is very fluffy, very tasty, and good eating. Jamaica Bahama product is simply the best.
As an insurance agent, my life is go, go, go. But whenever I need a refreshing break, it's Jamaica Bahamas Island Mixed Fruit Drink. Good.
Hi, I'm Debbie Bartlett from GEMS 105.9 FM. The effect that Island Junkanoo Juice Medley has on me is exhilarating.
I've been a customer for the past 2 years, and I will say the quality of the service is very good. During my trip to Andros, I was connected the entire trip. So that was really good. I was able to contact my family members and let them know how the trip was going. We touched land, we're here. So it was very good. And I really appreciate that. And also during times like when we had the storm, It was really good to have that service to reach out to our loved ones to make sure everyone is okay. And I really appreciate Alive for that. And even when there's a little technical difficulty, they always send out a little text message to let us know exactly what's going on. I'm happy to be alive, and I believe in best.
Hi, good morning. Good morning. Hi, would you like to try our chunk noodles?
I only come in here for 2 items.
Okay, but it'll only take 1 second and it's so delicious. Just 1 second.
Yeah, everything tastes delicious. Wow, it's really good. Where do I find it in the store?
Right this way, let me do it. Okay. Thanks. I'm talking about it. Right.
I'm glad to see you. Do the shuffle. It's been a while, do the shuffle.
I can't do shuffle, man.
You know what? You need this.
What's that?
Junkanoo Juice Medley.
That's it. Give me some more.
Come on, yeah, that's it. Jamaica Bahama Imports. Always got it.
Come on down and get your Junkanoo juice today.
It's the market for the entire family. Sawyer's Fresh Market. Bahamian owned and operated, Sawyer's is known for the lowest prices on meats, produce, fresh fruits, and vegetables. Check them out on Facebook and the Freeport News to find out all of their weekly specials and their monthly blowout sales. Sawyer's Fresh Market. Your grocery bill just got lower.
Hello and welcome back to Nation Building. I'm your host Winston Pinnock, and I'm here today with an interesting guest providing us with lots of information. We have the proprietor of executive grooming, Mr. AntoineMinnis. Mr. Minnis, we talked a lot in the first segment about the craft. You provided us with a lot of detailed information about origins of barbering and all the rest of it. Before we close that out, I just wanted to ask you what you're doing specifically to transfer your knowledge and experience to the next generation of Bahamians.
Well, like I mentioned, I taught at BTVI for about 2 years. And also a part of the Bahamas Cosmetologists and Barbers Association, where we're trying to regulate the industry to ensure proper training facilities, procedures, and that proper licensing occurs for barbers so that they can see what's going on. We're trying to offer not just that, but so much in that field, so much in that area of an association. I'm also mentoring a lot of young barbers. We have young barbers that are in my second location. I also have 2 that come up to my now location.
And you want to mention the locations where you're at?
My first location is on East Shirley Street in the Janda Commercial Center. It's on the corner of Shirley and Kemp Road at that intersection of Shirley, Kemp, and Fowler. And my second location is on Blue Hill Road, opposite S.E. McPherson School. Right on the corner, a 2-story yellow and white building, Crabtree Street and Blue Hill Road. It's right upstairs.
And just to put a plug in here, I'm not having you here today talking to the nation just to share about your craft as a promotional exercise. I'm doing this because I believe in your craft and your gift. I'm a client of yours, have been for almost 20 years, and your environment is an excellent environment, one fitting for a king or queen.
Thank you, sir. Mm-hmm.
And frankly, your facility attracts that type of clientele. I don't think you discriminate because there are people from all sectors of society there, but it's different than the average barbershop, and the level of conversation and discussion that goes on there is also elevated much higher.
Yes.
So I compliment you on that.
Thank you, sir.
We want to talk more specifically, though, The barbershop, as you know, is a place, certainly in our country, and not only here, but around the world, where lots and lots of political discussion take place. And to the extent that the clientele that you have, that you attract at your facility, it means that the level of conversation is even deeper and at a high level. And so I think you would be the most fitting person to have a discussion about barbershop politics today. And so we want to have you obviously represent the views of the sentiments you get from your customers. And so the first thing I want to pitch to you today is, as you know, we've had, well, I don't want to call them new, they're not new anymore. It's been almost a year and a half since the Minnis administration has been elected to office. And they, by any reasonable estimate, certainly the one that I've gathered, are the most unpopular government this quickly. I mean, time usually makes governments unpopular. Whether they serve a term or 2 terms, history says that. But never so quickly have we seen an administration lose popularity, and especially a government that would have gone into office with a significant majority of the seats in Parliament. So, first of all, is that the sentiment that you've gotten about this unpopularity of the government developing, I would say probably 6-8 months into its administration? Is that the sentiment that you've gathered? And if so, what is the reasoning you think that seems to have propelled that?
Well, that is the sentiment, word of my own. That is the sentiment that I gather in the store on a regular basis from a very wide cross-section of people. I think the reason for that is that many people thought this would have been the first administration that would have done what they said they were going to do on the onset. They felt as though this administration would have been the first one that would actually not move away from issues that deal directly with the people of the nation and their well-being, and not seem to be self-serving. So that is the sentiment that I get in the store, that nobody sees all of that was brought to the table, all of that was put forward as what I'm going to do for you. They don't see any of it. They just see what they feel is a continuation of a self-serving attitude.
Do you believe, and we've had these discussions over the years countless times, do you believe the Bahamian voter has become unreasonable in their expectations of what governments can and should do for them on their behalf? Or do you think that administrations have overpromised or been unrealistic in terms of what they have, the level of expectations that they've created among the voters?
I do believe that there is a level of unrealistic expectation by the general populace on political administration. I do believe that.
Is that growing?
No, it's diminishing now.
It is.
Right. But I do believe that part of it is due to the promises of administrations or promises of political parties. So people are holding them, and the reason I say that is because when you hear about things like people stop paying their mortgages because of a mortgage relief plan that was unrolled by the former administration, and people just decide to stop paying their mortgages once that party came in, then you realize that it's very unrealistic in the way people go about it.
But did that previous administration do a poor job in explaining to people what that was going to be like? And in fact, didn't they not campaign on this mortgage relief and thus raise people's expectation to believe things that are not realistic?
I do believe that they did, but then I also do believe that people who have dealt with financial institutes know that there's certain things have to happen a certain way. You know that until something happens, you have to continue on the course that you were on. I mean, that's realistic at best. Even if you're consolidating a loan outside of any political meanderings or interference, right? Interference. you still pay. You don't stop until everything comes together.
So that's a challenge, that's a problem with the culture and the mindset of our people.
It
Not
is.
so much the leaders, is it?
Well, they use that as their wand, or say they wave that in front. They know that this is the way people think, so they use that against the people.
So are you saying that the successive administration or those in politics have been guilty of fanning those flames?
I do say that. I do say that of my own volition. Yes, they do think that they fan those flames. They sit down and they have wonderful, wonderful sermons towards the people, political sermons, that is.
While they're in opposition.
While they're in opposition, and then when you come into power, it's a different ballgame.
We have a very high voter turnout in our country, still in the 90s, unlike even the United States, that struggled to get 50% of its population out to vote, and many other Caribbean countries. In a democratic society in the world, we're right up there with the very top. In fact, you'd probably have to find dictatorships in order to find higher voter turnouts than we do. And where you do find democratic societies, it's really difficult to get 90% of your voters for a number of reasons to turn out. So we have that going for us, high voter participation. With that, you said that from your experience and exposure to sentiments and the views that you've gotten, that you believe that the Bahamian people are becoming less expecting, they've lowered their expectation, if I can put it in another phrase, of their leaders. If that is true, why would you have an administration come to office and in less than a year become immensely unpopular and have the kind of rough ride, if you will, that the current administration has had?
Again, the manner in which they came to the people prior to this last election was one that seemed very genuine to the people. And this is not me. This is the general consensus.
Sure, you're representing
okay,
what you
so let me put that as a precursor. I'm representing.
Yeah, and we take all your comments here because that's what I'm asking for.
Right.
We take it that all of what you are representing today are sentiments that you may not necessarily agree with, but are sentiments from your barbershop. And this is the reason why we have you, because we want to have, you represent hundreds of people.
Yes.
And you want to reflect those views in the main, and we trust you to do that. So go ahead.
Right. So when you have a sales pitch and someone pitches the capabilities of a product to you or the capabilities of their services to you, you are paying your money or you're moving forward in that with the expectation that what they say is going to happen will happen. When you experience the product or the service and it falls flat, it's difficult for you to believe in now that moving forward, this person comes back to you that, yes, what they're bringing now actually works out and can actually do something. You become wary. We have a saying in our country, once bitten, twice shy, or fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. And people are now actually believing that and acting according to that very sentiment.
But if that is true, you've had this thing with the Bahamian people since 2002, where they have not given an administration more than one term in office. So the 2002 Progressive Liberal Party slogan got the people into a frenzy, and they voted overwhelmingly for the PLP at the time. Then in 2007, they removed them from office, bought into what Mr. Ingram had projected at the time, modeling himself as older, wiser, and more capable of handling some of the failures of Mr. Christie. And then in 2007, the voters then chose Mr. Ingram and the FNM. In 2012, they abandoned the Free National Movement, Ingram-led FNM, and went back to Mr. Christie that they had rejected. All right? And the reason for mentioning this history, as in 2017, they not only abandoned the Progressive Liberal Party, but actually got rid of its leader as well. He lost his seat. So I'm saying the people have been, where do they, I mean, they still turn out. So they haven't been discouraged completely, you would say.
I would say they haven't been discouraged about turning out. They haven't been discouraged about wanting to make a change. But we're finding now that the people are saying, hey, if you want my vote, you're going to pay for it this time. I'm not voting looking at the future to say, you know, it has to work out for my children or anything like that. Pay me.
Pay you how?
Well, however that happens
and that's
politically.
The sentiment you're
and
getting?
that is the sentiment that I got this morning that was put forward.
Is that consistent? Not just 1 or 2%?
Sadly enough. Sadly enough, sir.
But if that is true, we're dropping into the precipice now. I mean, for someone and the clientele that you have to offer to give their vote to be compensated in any way would just mean that we've fallen off the cliff.
We really have, Mr. Bennett, and I think that this is an understanding that.
I hope that is a frustration of the moment.
We would hope so, but sadly enough, this is an understanding that the country is coming to, that the people in the country are coming to.
Again, I said I hope that is just a momentary frustration. You're watching Nation Building. I'm your host, Winston Pinnock, and we'll be right back with our final segment right after this break.
The concierge service is the best thing ever. Like, it is so fabulous, especially for someone like me where I cannot leave my office, my job to go do anything in the middle of the day because I'm on the radio. The service was so fabulous. The ladies gave me a call. They set up an appointment. They come with their professional looking attire. They're just so cute. And they come here and it was a great experience. It took 20 minutes to switch over to the Alive service. It was simple. It was easy. And they just made me feel so welcomed. They explained everything. They hooked me up with my new phone. They gave me my data package. As you can see, hey. And it was fabulous. It was a wonderful service, but what I really liked best about it was not only did they come here and make it easy for me, but they continued to check up on me. The next day, they made sure that everything was working properly with the phone. I didn't have any issues. The following week, they contacted me again, and I've built a relationship with them. They've continued to check up on me. I feel like I'm part of the Alive family. It's amazing.
Who said you can't get great quality products at an affordable price? If you want the best quality food products at the most affordable prices, you must pick up the Jamaica Bahama brand of fine quality products at your favorite food store. Products like Jamaica Bahama Coconut Water, the most healthy and refreshing drink on the market. Jamaica Bahama Fruit Punch, the only fruit punch in the Bahamas made from real fruit. Jamaica Bahama coconut milk, green pigeon peas with coconut milk, condensed milk, kidney beans with coconut milk, corned beef, green pigeon peas, mackerel, and corn. Jamaica Bahama's fine line of products is available at all your favorite food stores and convenience stores nationwide. Telephone 351-8282 in Freeport and 341-4091 in Nassau.
I don't wanna wait. No, no, I don't wanna wait.
Hi, good morning. Good morning. Hi, would you like to try our chunk?
I only come in here for 2 items.
Okay, but it'll only take 1 second and it's so delicious. Just 1 second.
Yeah, everything tastes delicious. Wow, it's really good. Where do I find it in the store?
Right this way, let me show you. Okay.
Thank you. We're glad to see you. Do the shuffle. It's been a while, do the shuffle.
I can't do shuffle, man.
You know what? You need this.
What's that?
Junkanoo Juice Medley.
That's it. Give me some more.
Come on, yeah, that's it. Jamaica Bahama Imports. Always got it.
Come on down and get your Junkanoo juice today.
It's the market for the entire family. Sawyer's Fresh Market. Bahamian owned and operated, Sawyers is known for the lowest prices on meats, produce, fresh fruits, and vegetables. Check them out on Facebook and the Freeport News to find out all of their weekly specials and their monthly blowout sales. Sawyer's Fresh Market. Your grocery bill just got lower.
Welcome back to Nation Building. I'm your host, Winston Pinnock. I'm here today with Mr. AntoineMinnis, who is the proprietor of Executive Grooming. And his barbering facility here in Nassau is a unique facility which is attracting the likes of leaders in the country to the common man. We're going to, in this final segment, Mr. Minnis, talk a little about what some of us might say is unrealistic expectations of the Bahamian voter. I believe we might have mentioned the fact that we talked about the unpopularity of the government. We talked about some of the challenges might exist. And it occurs to me that successive governments, we've been down the road of changing governments over the last 20 years. What really is the Bahamian people's problem? If they have been changing governments from 2002, we would have seen the departure of the first Ingram government in 2002 after serving 10 years. That was the last time we had an administration to serve 2 terms. Since then, it's been in by a landslide with Mr. Christie in 2002, then back to Mr. Ingram, who sold himself as a more older, wiser leader who would be able to fix or deal effectively with some of the shortcomings of the then Prime Minister Christie as far as managing his team. And by a narrow margin, the FNM won in 2007. And then in 2012, the voters booted in another landslide the Ingram administration and went back to the Christie administration, who then got booted out of office to Dr. Hubert Minnis and his team. It seemed to suggest that voters in the country may frankly not know what they want. What is it from the sentiment you get from the people at your facility that visit your store? What is it that really the voters really, what is the priority to them? What does the Bahamian voter really want?
The Bahamian voter really wants the administration to do as they campaign on. Many of the campaigners, the campaign, not just slogans, but ideas and policies and their manifestos, those things that they bring out, are exactly what people want to see in their society. But it does not translate after the election. So that is a big part of the Bahamian population's frustration. We are also, as a people, based on sentiments expressed in the store, people are looking for economic relief. People are not looking to be taxed. People are not looking to have salaries garnished. People are looking for ways and means by which they can make more money. Now, my belief also is that the people themselves also have to take responsibility for where they're at and not just put everything on the government. However, whenever the government approaches a person and asks for their vote so that they can represent them, they're asking these from the position of, this is what I will do for you. That is what I will do for you. Here again, I'll do this for you. And once the election passes, the Bahamian population feels as though, here we go again. We're back to
Typically, are these usually, when you hear these sentiments, are these personal promises or are these for the most part national things that a government promise it'll do for communities or to develop the country? What are voters holding the government's feet to the fire for more? Are those national things, or we still have in our country this thing of politicians promising personal favors and jobs and all this craziness to individuals? What is really ticking people off more?
What is ticking people off more is that people are of the mindset now that, you know what, I can do for myself, just give me the opportunity. So when the opportunity does not present itself, that is bothersome to the general population.
So the sentiment you're getting is more that people are not satisfied with what is being done nationally for the country.
Exactly.
To give them the opportunity they need.
Exactly.
This is quite early, still early. The government still has time to improve on what it is doing. Do you think, well, not do you think, are you hearing, do people feel like the government is listening to the cries and to their dissatisfaction? Are they getting the message?
People feel as though the government is not listening to their cries. They're not getting the message. That even though they are lamenting, that the government still is doing what it wants to do. Now, we don't know as a population if the government is doing what it has to do based on conditions that people don't know. I've heard that sentiment being expressed.
If so, shouldn't the government be articulating that effectively
Yes,
to the people?
they should be articulating that effectively to the people. And that is the question that I find arising regularly. Are these people doing something that they have to do based on things that they've signed on to, based on the forecast of world conditions and where we need to place ourselves in the future? That is the question that is being asked. If that is a question that is not answered, then there are those who will now say, you know what, I feel as though something is coming down the pipeline. These people are taking care of themselves and not concerned about it.
But there's certainly no evidence of that. I know there was a lot of talk in the last administration about these things, about politicians taking care of themselves and enriching themselves and so on. Certainly the administration is not being accused of that, and as far as what you're hearing.
As far as what I'm hearing, there's no direct accusation, but there is assumptions. You know, there's speculation that it could be. Now, I don't think so. I don't think that's the case. But I've heard the sentiment being expressed.
You talked about people's feeling that the government isn't listening to their cries. It would seem a little idiotic, if I can say so, if you're in government having experienced what happened last year with the total wipeout, annihilation, some would say, of the former government, that and the myriad of issues that people complained about, going as far back as to the gaming referendum, to so many other issues that people accuse the former administration of being tone deaf on. It would occur to, I think, any reasonable person that if you inherited government, that you would be acutely aware and careful about how you respond to the Bahamian people's cry. So I find that a little interesting, that the sentiment you're getting is that people feel government is tone deaf.
But that is what we're talking about now. When before the election, you see what we've come out of. In fact, you were also privy to it. Some of it affected you. So now that you're in the position to do something about it, why aren't you moving us along those lines?
Let us jump to something that's very important before we wrap up, and that is it is possible, and I have no scientific evidence to prove this, but it seems to me, just anecdotal, that the hit the government has taken from the increase in taxes, in value-added taxes, is probably the largest hit that it has gotten in the 15 or so months, 16 months that it's been in office, or 17 months that it's been in office. Is that a reasonable, from what you've gotten, is that a reasonable assumption?
It is a reasonable assumption. And the question arises, is this as a result Is this as a result of what you signed on to? Or is this as a result of the nation actually being in that position where it absolutely needs to do it, just to stay
When you
afloat?
say you sign on to, you're referring to the government.
I'm referring to governments, and I'm referring to international agreements that they've signed on to, that you have to implement these things to stay afloat, or do you have to implement these things based on the fact that you've signed on to this agreement? Because a business can implement certain policies to stay afloat, and then a business can also implement certain policies to increase their profit margin. Okay, so that is the question.
An interesting question you may not be able to answer if you haven't asked your patrons directly is whether this whole concept of the increasing of taxes, I certainly heard a lot of that coming back, where people was very critical of the fact that the now government, when it was in opposition, lambasted the previous administration, criticizing them, calling them lazy and so on for imposing value-added tax at the time. And now the government then came, I don't know, some have said, but I have no evidence that they said that if they were in office they would remove it. But certainly the expectation was that at the very least there wouldn't be no tax increases. And the government, of course, had found it necessary to impose a sizable tax increase on value-added taxes. So the question is people more, is it more a concern of the increase of the tax, or is it what is some see as a hypocrisy of saying one thing and doing something completely different?
That is the
well, which one?
People are saying it's the hypocrisy initially, and then the question arises from that: do you have to, because of conditions that you didn't understand while you were in opposition, or do you have to?
Which begs another question.
Exactly.
Which again you might not be able to answer is it reasonable for those seeking office in opposition? I know the opposition party has someone that sits, I think, as chair of the, I don't want to misquote here, but they certainly have access to financial information. I think the Public Accounts Committee or something, there's a member of opposition. Should we excuse future governments, you think, from being able to not be responsible in statements that, as a people, that they make to us in saying, we will do this for you, and then to get in office and say, oh, we didn't know? Because if that is a trend, I mean, you could, governments, parties can say anything to get elected. So as a people, as we get ready to close, and I'm asking now for your thoughts, and as you summarize, what do you advise as someone who sits and hears the thoughts of Bahamians daily? What do you advise the people to do in terms of how they handle people who are opposition parties, I guess, that are making promises to them? How do they, what is realistic to expect is, I guess, what I'm saying.
I think, in my opinion, we have to ask people who are in opposition to bring empirical evidence as to what they're arguing against. Okay, because there are a lot of things that happen that are not fully explained, and people just take that from the gossip column and they run with it, and they put a smear tactic to it that when you get back to the original point, you find that it's so far off. Okay, so we as a people now have to ask our opposition to come with empirical evidence as to what you are stating that the government is doing or not doing, and show us where empirically how you're going to move forward. Now,
go ahead. Finish.
Now that is something that I feel as though that would say to the general population that, okay, the opposition is doing their research. I do believe there is government publications, or they can find out what they need to find out through BIS or anything like that, to bring these things to the forefront.
Do they want to?
No.
Oppositions prefer to just talk, a good talk?
They prefer to do, the more you keep people in ignorance, the more you can now push or make it easier for yourself to attain power.
Is it that our both major political parties that have been privileged to serve as our governments, have they come to a place where they just want to enjoy a term in office? Because that's what the people seems to be giving them. Are they just said whatever they need to say and have a term in office and enjoy the spoils for 5 years? Or
it seems that maybe not even so that there's a term in office, but it seems as though it's like, okay, we're playing the Harlem Globetrotters. The Washington Generals actually, they travel with the Harlem Globetrotters because they are actually a part of the Harlem Globetrotters. So there's no true opposition. The Harlem Globetrotters will win. The organization of Harlem Globetrotters will win. So the population does not feel that there is an actual true opposition to governance in the country. You see, they feel as though that they are being hoodwinked in that regard.
It's going to be interesting. 2 quick questions before we go. While talking about opposition politics, the current leader of the opposition, PLP, who just got booted out a year and some ago, is the Honorable Philip Brave Davis. He is of that generation, the more senior generation of politicians. What is the sentiments coming out of the barbershop about, not him as a person, but if you can divorce both, about him, his viability of winning the next election? Still early, the viability of him winning, being a part of the old school, or is it really, age is not really a factor anymore? It's really about what is being presented.
Age is not the factor here that I'm hearing. What is being presented is the factor. I think it's a split decision when it comes down to him, because there are many people who feel as though he's for the common man, and there are many people who feel as though he does not have the charisma or capability to be a good leader. Now,
is charisma still a factor? I mean,
well, among the general population, charisma is a factor.
Would you say Dr. Minnis displayed a lot of charisma in the last election?
I would say that Dr. Minnis rode a wave in the last election.
So why can't,
and he rode it well.
Why can't Brave Davis ride a wave?
Well, I personally believe that he can as well.
Okay. So at the end of the day, sentiments aside, truth is, I guess is it reasonable to say, and you can correct me again from your views you've gathered, is it reasonable to say that it really doesn't matter that much who's in opposition, what they're presenting? It's really about people's feeling about who is in office at the time. Is that reasonable or not?
This country has shown us time and time again, nobody's voted in. Everybody's voted out.
Is that healthy for the future?
No, it's not. It means that we're not thinking about the process.
Thank you so much. I hope that you educate your clients at your barbershop about what will help them to make more informed decisions and do well for the future of our country. It's been a great conversation here. I hope the viewers have also enjoyed the conversation. I certainly did. On behalf of all of us here at Nation Building, I want to thank you for this opportunity to bring this broadcast to you, and stay tuned for the next edition right here on Nation Building, and have a great week.
It's the market for the entire family. Sawyer's Fresh Market. Bahamian owned and operated, Sawyer's is known for the lowest prices on meats, produce, fresh fruits, and vegetables. Check them out on Facebook and the Freeport News to find out all of their weekly specials and their monthly blowout sales. Sawyer's Fresh Market. Your grocery bill just got lower.
Hi, good morning. Good morning. Hi, would you like to try our chunk noodles?
I only come in here for 2 items.
Okay, but it'll only take 1 second, and it's so delicious. Just 1 second.
Yeah, everything tastes delicious. Wow, it's really good. Where do I find it in the store?
Right this way, let me show you. Okay. And stop talking about it. Right.
Glad to see you. Do the shuffle. It's been a while, do the shuffle.
I can't do shuffle, man.
You know what? You need this.
What's that?
Junkanoo Juice Medley.
That's it. Give me some more.
Jamaica Bahama Imports. Always got it.
Come on down and get your Junkanoo juice today.
I've been a customer for the past 2 years, and I will say the quality of the service is very good. During my trip to Andros, I was connected the entire trip. So that was really good. I was able to contact my family members and let them know how the trip was going. We touched land, we're here. So it was very good. And I really appreciate that. And also during times like when we had the storm, it was really good to have that service to reach out to our loved ones to make sure everyone is okay. And I really appreciate Alive for that. And even when there's a little technical difficulty, they always send out a little text message to let us know exactly what's going on. I'm happy to be alive, and I believe in best.